on the recorder because this is such, I don't want to miss anything out on today's show. Asking everybody to share. And for those of you who are joining on YouTube later on and watching this broadcast, just know that this is a radio show that we record the on and off the air conversations, because so many of the people that were on before would say such powerful things off the air, and I really wanted to capture it. So there's no editing, and so you get it just like it happens. And so I want you to know that today we're talking about mental health. So many of us have told we're chemically depressed. What are these chemical depressions? Why are we anxious? Why are we experiencing thoughts that don't support our body? Well, I'm excited because we have Dr. Mensah of Mensah Medical and Dan Hanson of DHA Labs, and we are going to learn about what the deficiencies are in our brain that could possibly be causing you to feel less than or not enough. So, you hear the music, it's time to dance. Oh, we didn't tell Dr. Mensah this, so here you go. Time to dance, Dr. Mensah. Come on.
Okay.
Give me some island stuff. Oh, don't tell me you dance like this. Oh, come on.
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Here we go. For those of you who are watching today, thank you so much, Jana, for joining us. Patty, good morning. Oh, you guys want to share this because we're going to be giving away another DHA metabolic panel. Okay, I better be paying attention.
Friend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been watching or listening to the show since 2011, or maybe you just started watching yesterday or listening yesterday, welcome and thank you so much for supporting the show. If this is the first time you have stumbled upon the show, I'm telling you, it is not an accident. It is by divine design that you are joining us today, whether you're on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, where you get the on and off the air conversation, or you are driving to work this morning or taking your kids to school. Listen up. I'm hoping that this conversation will change your life. Just know that if this is the first time that you've stumbled upon the show, I have been waiting for you. I have been waiting for you. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please know that this is a safe place that you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, just in case I didn't say it enough, feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, that all being said, many people don't understand, how can I live the life of my dreams when I am feeling like I am not enough, like I want to die, like everything bad happens to me, or maybe I am anxious about what tomorrow is going to bring, or the day after tomorrow, or maybe creating things that aren't real and that we believe. Where is that? So we've been told for many years, there's a chemical imbalance. But what if that chemical is something simple, like vitamin B6 or zinc? Or what if it's a protein that you need? What if it's something simple? None of us are Zoloft deficient. None of us are pharmaceutical drug deficient. I'm not against drugs. I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. I am for taking 100% responsibility for our life. But here's the deal. About a month or two at the beginning of the year, or last year, I met a gentleman named Dr. William Walsh. He's a PhD, and he was on my show, and he shared, and I have the book right here, the book, I heard him speak about nutrient power. And ever since I heard from him I said he's going to be on my show. And once he was on my show, I made a commitment to mental health. Because yes, you can feel good about yourself, but unless you figure out what is causing issues in your brain, how do we embrace this new truth? So that led me to asking Dr. Walsh a question. What do you do? Who do you use? And he shared DHA Laboratories. That's where he does all his testing. And in comes Dan Hanson, who was on my show a couple of weeks ago. That just was so wonderful because he explained the testing aspect of it. Well, I went through this process, and I know this is a long intro because I want to make sure that you understand why I'm so passionate about this show and future shows that we will do. So I asked Dr. Walsh to go through this process, and I did. And I met with Dr. Mensa. Oh my God, wait till you hear him. And I'm sure that people have already seen him that are on Facebook Live. Okay, you'll draw your own conclusion, but let me just say, amazing. Okay, and of course, Dan, who all of you saw, cutie, very smart. And so the information that is coming out from these men will be life-changing. And so we have Dr. Mensa of Mensah Medical and Dan Hanson of DHA Lab, who's donating again another DHA metabolic panel with a consultation with Dr. Mensa. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am beyond grateful that both of them are here to do just that. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Lillian McDermott radio show.
Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you.
Okay, so that deep voice that you heard is Dr. Mensa. And so let's start with Dr. Mensa. So actually, no, we're going to start with Dan because we had you on the show 2 weeks ago. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much for that show. You have enlightened so many people. Share a little bit about your background before we jump into the first segment. Share a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you again for the warm welcome, Lillian. I started working in our family laboratory. I'm the third generation in our family in laboratory science. Several years ago, when I became really infatuated with nutritional support, healthy lifestyle, and healthy living. And so it's really a pleasure today to get the opportunity to bridge some gaps that I think are just astounding. One to you, Lillian, with your voice, and one to Dr. Mensa with his expertise and knowledge and care.
Awesome. Awesome. And so today we're going to be giving the 25th caller, texter, comment on Facebook Live, and we're going to continue our conversation at Lillian's radio show. So join us there as well on Facebook. We'll be right here waiting for you. Thank you, Andre. It's very important that you keep me on track. And I apologize for asking you a question when we had just about 30 seconds left. So
It's all right.
For those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, I want to hear where you're calling from or you're watching. I want to know if there's anything specific. Okay. Oh yeah. So Yvonne, hello, Yvonne. She's listening from Malaysia. Do you are you able to help anybody in Malaysia?
Well, our consultation program is available internationally as long as we can suit basic needs for transportation. So I'm not sure I've worked with someone in Malaysia, but we have worked with people all around Europe, all around Asia, and ultimately you can certainly try to win this consultation, and we'll do our absolute best to move your specimens.
So basically, if you have a lab near there, they will ship it to you and you will be able to do this. So Yvonne from Malaysia, she says, does schizophrenic patients, an outcome of a specific nutrient deficiency? And we're going to be talking about that, about schizophrenia on the air, right, Dr. Mensa?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, of course, I want all of you who are watching to share this. Go to that little arrow. Were you able to share, Dr. Mensa and Dan? Were you guys able to go to that little arrow that says share? And you can find it on Facebook Live. Go to @Lillian's radio show and share it with your personal page, a personal group, whatever you'd like to do. So I want to encourage all of you to share. And hello, Jillian. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you're still there. And we're about to get started, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Daniel, I'm going to start with, do you want to introduce Dr. Mensa?
Certainly.
Okay, so I will hand it over to you. You can share, you can introduce Dr. Mensah, and then Dr. Mensah, if you can share a little bit about your medical background and what led you to this, great work that you and Dr. Walsh are doing. Okay, we're about to get started. Here we go.
Friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Okay, here we go.
You can text Lillian
No
McDermott
dancing?
or leave her a voicemail at 407-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, or should I say, welcome to the classroom, because we are learning about mental health. What can we do about depression, anxiety, behaviors that are repetitive that you cannot control? What is going on? Why can everybody else do that? Why can everybody control it? So I just introduced Dan Hanson. He is the VP of DHA Labs, and this is where it all begins. This is where you take your blood work, or you get your little vial for the urine sample that you're going to be submitting. And this is for mental health. This is not for your entire body, although we'll talk about that later. This is for mental health. And so, Dan, you then send the results to?
We send the results to Dr. Albert Mensa, who I'd love to welcome today. I have the astute pleasure of welcoming Dr. Albert Mensa, who is a
Thank you, Dan.
Oh, you're welcome. Dr. Mensa, in my opinion, is a world-renowned family physician, but I hate to put him in a box of just family physician because he is also a physician educator. He is a biochemistry expert and a brain chemistry expert who runs one of the best medical practices that I'm aware of, and I frequently recommend patients that we speak with to speak directly with Dr. Mensa.
So thank you, Dr. Mensah, for taking your time to be with us today. And so if you can share a little bit, I mean, Dan already talked about your background. How did you get connected to, as a family physician, to mental health?
Well, first of all, thank you, Lillian, for having me on your show. And Dan, thank you for that great introduction. I love this process because to me, this is all a lark. I didn't intend to go into this field. I didn't believe any of this nonsense. I was a traditional physician, taught in traditional ways. Nutrients don't work. There's no hope for these folks who've got these strange disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar and all that fun stuff. But I was challenged by one of my colleagues, one of my really close friends from med school, was a no-nonsense person. And she told me that she had only been at this place, this amazing place, for about a month, and she saw people being healed without pharmaceutical medication. Or if they were on pharmaceutical medication, this provided a great impetus and a great process by which people actually normalized. So I asked her, well, what is this stuff? She said, well, it's like nutrients. I said, oh, come on now, you know nutrients don't work. And she said, no, you have to see this. It's more like molecular chemistry. I said, now that I can take a look at. So needless to say, I went there. I had already signed a beautiful contract to make a lot of money. Now here's where I dance. I was going to make a lot of money. And then I went to this place just to see it. And then 10 minutes on my way home, they offered me a job. And I said, well, wait a minute now, this is very difficult because I was trying to marry up my sweetheart at the time. And I had no money. And I was in debt from student loans. And so I said, if I do this, I better be entering something really important because if not, I'm in trouble. And I figured, well, you know, if this is nonsense, I would know it pretty soon and I can go back to traditional medicine. So I was already a very powerful, if I do say so myself, at the time, student of neurochemistry, neurophysiology, and the human brain itself.
Yes.
But when I walked into that place and I spoke to Dr. Walsh and my other great mentor, Dr. DeVito, that ego that walked in the room is more the size of a pinhead by the time it left. So all arrogance left at that particular point in time. But what I saw every day was just amazing. I saw people being healed, not medicated, but actually healed. Yeah. Schizophrenics going back to get jobs, having families, people with bipolar disorder now running companies before when they couldn't even talk to anyone. People with anxiety, depression just going. To make a very long story short, I'm still here doing this, but even more so now I preach it because I was that skeptical doctor that everyone else encounters and probably more skeptical than most. So now it is just my mission to make sure I spread the word on this as much as possible.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Mensa. And, and really, Dan, today you are my co-host because you have been supporting this information for such a long time. And now you are giving away a metabolic panel that with a consultation with Dr. Mensa. And so you'd be the 25th caller, texter, 407-373-5959. But if you're watching us on Facebook Live, I need for you to send me a message on Messenger, and a private message, because I don't want people to be counting and waiting for the 25th person. But I want you to, if you really want this, just go for it. This is, I don't know, what is the value of this, Dan?
The total value is $448.
And that is including Dr. Mensa's consultation?
Yes.
Yes. So if I think about it, if it includes the lab work and Dr. Mensa's consultation, you really aren't in this to get rich, Dr. Mensa, right?
No.
So this is about making a difference. And when you do something for the good of all, then it just comes back. It just comes back to you 100 times fold. So caller, texter, 407-373-5959. If you call, leave a message. I'm not going to answer. So just call. And also, if you're at Lillian's radio show, send us messages. Go send a private message on at Lillian's radio show, and I will look at when it came in, and the 25th caller, texter, messenger will get a free consultation and this DHA metabolic panel with a free consultation. So let's start from the very beginning, Dr. Mensa. I read to you an email that I received from a young lady that for 15 years, she has been dealing with depression, anxiety, different kinds of medication. They go into the loop of this doesn't work, and hopelessness. And side effects of these medications could be suicidal thoughts. So let's talk about how the brain works and why this pattern is not supporting the brain.
Well, one of the most important things that we need to really understand is that the brain is a biochemical factory. It is a chemical factory. It actually makes chemistries. It makes serotonin. It makes dopamine. It makes neurotransmitters. It makes enzymes. So they're not just all ready-made, prepackaged, and just sitting there and waiting. So like with any factory, there can be glitches. There can be either too little made or too much made. And when you have too much or too little of anything, very little works very well. Mm-hmm. So that's what we actually see with regard to many of the disorders that are out there. Usually they're related in some way, shape, or form to a glitchy brain. Production of the factory is not working properly. In other cases, manufacturing is done, but now when you go to the end product, when you get to Amazon and it's finally shipped, something gets damaged in transit. Yeah. Okay. Or by the time it reaches your home, somebody else steals it from the porch. We've seen a lot of that too.
Yes.
So these are the analogies really with regard to how the system works. There can be glitches in the system that lead to challenges, even starting from birth, with situations like autism, all the way through disorders like schizophrenia when traumas occur. We talk about gene expression. Now, genes are only really just potential. They're like, forgive me, a loaded weapon, but you need a trigger. And sometimes those triggers can be events, certain traumas, or they can be biochemical abnormalities. And that's when we kind of go to the question of what is going on with your chemistry. And that's the first place we look, because we can actually find answers there.
Okay. And Dan, at any time, if you want to add anything, just let me know. And I can have you ask any questions that you want as well. And then I will also ask. And for those of you, you can ask any question, you can text at any time, any questions, or call, and I'll ask the questions after. So with that in mind, anxiety. So many people are anxious in this world. And Dr. Walsh had mentioned so many different names like methylation disorder, copper overload, pyrrole disorder, focus and attention disorders. But let's take it down to if someone has anxiety. Let's talk about anxiety. What does that mean to you as you are like doing a quick scan on someone? Not diagnosing, but doing a quick scan.
Well, there are two things that come to mind. Every traditional doctor will ask the question, did something happen? Is there something wrong in your environment to lead to this anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really difficult is when people say, no, you know what, I have a perfect life. I've got a perfect husband, or I've got a perfect spouse. I've got a perfect family. Everything is wonderful. I have no real needs or desires. They're blessed people. What is it? Why? Why do I still have this anxiety? Now, that's the story that we really pay attention to, because what's really happening is that there's a biochemical imbalance somewhere in the system that is not working, that is there.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be happening, but there's a chemical glitch. Whether it is indeed, now in addition to what you just mentioned, all those things are true. The pyrrole disorders, which Dan's clinic is just powerful with, his center, the undermethylation, overmethylation, but even thyroid dysfunction. Every doctor knows about thyroid dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
but what they don't know about are things like deficiencies in certain nutrients, where you have a deficiency in vitamin B6 or deficiency in zinc for that matter. Or you can be either undermethylated or overmethylated. These are the areas where we go, because when you correct these things, this is like butter. It is beautiful. When you correct them, people do better. Some of them are absolutely resolved with regard to their anxiety or depression for that matter. So for us, it is a big flag. Now, the other thing that's critical is that we also understand it's not just one cause. There are many different biochemical abnormalities that can actually lead to the symptoms of anxiety or depression. Now, note, I said anxiety was a symptom. Anxiety is not a diagnosis.
Thank
It
you.
is not in and of itself the key problem. It is only a symptom that something else has gone wrong.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because many people take the symptom and the way that the medical whole protocol of medicine is, I take what my body is doing and turn it into a disease. It's really our body speaking to us. So if our body is has past trauma, so you take all of that into consideration, any past trauma that the person is unwilling to look at as well. How do you deal with that?
Very carefully. One of the things that we have to absolutely eliminate is the potential or take into account the understanding that there was a trauma in the past. It could be a childhood trauma. It could be a current trauma. If you could see the number of times we've had, literally, forgive me, grown men in our clinic break down and cry within the first few minutes of discussion. They're going back to previous traumas. They're going back to points of pain. And that's a powerful thing in our society for men who are trained and programmed to be very neutral emotionally, to sit down and cry in front of a virtual stranger.
Mm-hmm.
But we do our best to try to create a very warm environment where people can express some of these challenges. We have to separate the traumatic anxieties from the non-traumatic anxieties. So we must go there. And that is part of almost every conversation we have. Were there any issues, any challenges from the past or the present that you're dealing with?
Very good. And Dan, would you like to add anything real quick?
Well, these things are things that I consider cutting edge, because I speak with a lot of people who are just unaware of these various factors. And I wonder, Dr. Mensah, from your opinion, how many patients come to Mensah Medical? How many people do you speak with who understand these key terms that we're talking about today that make your practice unique and have heard this from other physicians or practitioners?
Yeah.
We have an interesting mix, Dan. That's a great question. We have an interesting mix of many people who, they've got some great friends. They trust them. Their friends said, go to that clinic, and they go. Their friends said, do that consult, call DHA, and they do it without any prior knowledge or understanding. And then we have a significant population who do research. They have read every book. They've gone through tons and tons of physicians, or sometimes their physician actually recommended that they move through our process. So I would say probably we've got about a good 25 to 35% who really have no idea, but are acting based on recommendation. And we've got another 50, 60% that have done a whole lot of reading and research on programs like Lillian McDermott show, and they come because of that.
And we're going to go on into a break, and I want to remind you, 25th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. If you're joining on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, you can privately message me as well, and you will get a free metabolic DHA metabolic panel with consultation, and we're going to be I didn't make it. Okay, so for those of you who are watching, send me a private message. Do you have any questions for Dr. Mensah that he can respond to as it is? So sorry, Andre. Sorry. So anxiety. After you get past the men crying or the women just remembering. And isn't that what our body is giving us permission to remember? And, but the body holding on to whatever it is, because I've had doctor after doctor talk about how disease is 99% emotional. It's not doesn't mean that disease is not there, but that it's because of an emotional component, and 1% is due to your DNA. And you've talked about how DNA can be turned on, turned off. It's just the trigger that causes it to move forward. So here we go with that. We have now someone is pulled the trigger. They understand that perhaps maybe the root cause, but the anxiety, is that a pattern, or is this because they don't have a certain vitamin in their body?
Well, I like the way you put it, Lillian. What is happening is that the anxiety is your body letting you know something is wrong. Okay. Your body is telling you there is a glitch in the system. It is the warning light that comes on in your car.
Yes.
When you see that warning light, you don't say, oh my goodness, my car is going to explode, or it's got blinking light syndrome or disease. It's saying there's something you need to correct, and it is correctable. Mm-hmm. So that's when we start taking a look at the chemical pieces. Once again, is this a methylation issue? Is this a high copper issue in a female who's got postpartum depression, fibroid tumors? She's emotionally unstable. She had anxiety most of the days of her life ever since she started puberty. Okay. These are big flags for us that in these types of cases, there is an underlying biochemical consideration that we know about, and it's treatable, and people don't have to live that way. So anxiety is a flag. It is a flag, not a diagnosis. It's a flag.
I love that. I love when you said that too, because many people think, okay, I have anxiety or I am depressed. And so that all of a sudden becomes their identity. I'm depressed, therefore I can't. Dan, I see you nodding your head. Is there anything that you want to add to that? Do you see that a lot too?
Absolutely. I think people, it's great. You can build a community and share that identity to have support. And I know that your show, and When You Need a Friend, provides great support systems like that. However, it's important that we take ownership as well, and we learn about these solutions, and we approach it as a solution, and we determine that, hey, this is an opportunity as well, not just an ideology.
Yes. And Dr. Mensa, as people realize anxiety equals maybe low B6 or high, whatever it is, you're going to talk about that. And I'm not encouraging anybody to self-diagnose. I would like for you to consider going to see Dr. Mensa, getting your labs done, but the 25th caller, texter, or messenger will get a free metabolic panel. And it's by DHA. Thank you so much, Dan, for being so generous and offering this metabolic panel with the consultation to Dr. Mensa.
Our pleasure.
So, yes. And so no self-diagnosing, but do you find that you can tell whether or not a person is a high metabolizer or not metabolizer, a methylator or low methylator? Can you tell? I mean, do you find yourself scanning people and scanning audiences? And
I can tell you, you should see me and my partner, Dr. Bowman, at the airport. We'll oftentimes just go walking by and go, oh, undermethylator, oh, overmethylator, oh, look at that little baby. Oh, she's so cute, pyro disorder. Oh, that woman's got copper toxicity. Oh, gee, let me go give that lady a hug and tell her it's going to be okay. We know where she's coming from. You know, after a while, you just know the patterns and you can see it on people. It is for seasoned practitioners.
I am going to, this is where halfway through. How much time do you guys have after the show? Do you have like
you can text Lillian
10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Voicemail at 373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show classroom, where we all learn together. It is so important that we go through life with this childlike curiosity. One that says, okay, I know I've been told this my whole life, but perhaps maybe I don't know what I don't know. Maybe this is something that's resonating with you right now, this conversation that we're having that has to do with what is chemically depressed? What are the chemical imbalances? What is that chemical? Could it be a vitamin deficiency? Could it be something simple that we have made so complicated? And so this is the conversation we're having today with the vice president of DHA Labs and Dan Hanson, and the co-founder of Mensa Medical, Dr. Albert Mensa. And so for those of you who would like a free testing, Dan is being very generous. He's offering DHA metabolic panel with consultation. And I'm so excited that the 25th caller or texter at 407-373-5959, that's 407-373-5959, or you can go to Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show. If you go to facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show, you can also send me a message, or you know what? At whenyouneedafriend.com, you can click on there and you have that little messenger button. Now you can just send me a message too. So if you want this free test with this wonderful man who's going to be your guide, your coach, or Dr. Mensa, then be the 25th caller, texter, messenger. And I want to encourage you, I don't want to spend too much time telling you about the show, but please subscribe. Please be a part of the conversation. Like me, follow me on social media, like me on YouTube. And the more we share the show, the more these conversations occur, the less we are paying attention to the visions of wonderful things in television that say, if you take this pill, you will be so happy. But by the way, you might get diarrhea, you might lose your hair, and you might even die. So I just want to encourage you to take this 100% ownership. Let's take our health back, including our mental health. Now, I just recently had this testing done, and full disclosure, Dr. Mensa, two things, and he doesn't even know I was going to talk about this. Two things: low zinc. That was the one thing that he discovered. And in our consultation, he didn't just look at the blood work and say, oh yeah, you have low zinc, off you go. No, he said, by the way, this gastric issue that you have going on, perhaps maybe you should consider all the magnesium you're taking, because I was told I was deficient in magnesium. And so I was taking 1,000 milligrams. And he said, I don't know, I would stop. I would stop taking the magnesium, or at least half it. So I will tell you, I'm just going to give you an update, and I'm going to tell everybody about this update, that overnight, the gastric issues went away. That's number one. Number two, with the zinc, I went from 10 milligrams, but you prescribed 70 milligrams of zinc with, what is the?
Picolinate.
Pictonalase. Okay.
Picolinate.
Picolinate. So I'm now taking that. And remember I said to you, for someone who drinks so much water, my skin feels dehydrated, my hair is falling out, my hair stopped falling out, and my skin feels, I was telling my husband, I go, I can't stop touching my skin anymore. It's like, I keep touching myself. But anyway, thank you, Dr. Mensa. And thank you, Dan, for DHA Labs for offering my free panel, which I took advantage of right away. So thank you both for this.
You're welcome.
So let's talk about something as simple, because I don't deal with depression. I don't have those issues, but I had other physiological issues that were creating stress in my body. So let's talk about the stress in the body, anxiety. We've already talked about anxiety, but what are some of the reasons why people experience this?
Well, you mentioned something very interesting, stress. And many people, we are connected. The brain, the head, the body, they are connected. But people also need to understand what the potential causes are and what the connections actually are. They're not always as significant as one would think. Now, one of the things we talk about quite heavily is pyrrole disorder. And that is a disorder where your system will deprive itself. It will take away certain key elements from your body, one of them being zinc. And when it does so, zinc is so pivotal in both physical as well as mental processing that you see a whole constellation of symptoms happening. Things like losing your hair, at the same time anxiety, depression, poor mood swings, rapidly cycling mood swings, irregular capacity to be able to deal with stress. We see it in our children in the terrible twos. We see it in our teenagers in the puberty years. You wonder, who is this kid? I did give birth to them, but I don't recognize them anymore. They're turning cartwheels. Their heads are spinning. But what is really clear is that they're oftentimes experiencing what we know as chiral disorder, a molecule in the system that steals very key nutrients under stress. Now, back to the specific answer to your question, what is stress? Stress can be anything that is emotional. It can be physical, physiologic, or environmental. So let's say environmental. It could be the workplace or it could be school. It could be just having an argument with your childhood friend and you're only 4 years of age. That is stressful for a little person. And we don't recognize that because we think, oh, they're so cute, they're just playing and they'll get over it. No, that is a big stress to children. Physical growth is a big stress to children. It pulls on both the body and the mind. Every organ, every tissue is stretching, it's growing, it's changing. That requires a great deal from the human system. And it sucks the living life force out of you. So you become depleted. That depletion doesn't just end there, because many of the nutrients that we have in our body and our systems also function to help with brain capacity and mental processing. So whether it's environmental, your bosses have given you trouble at work, or you live in a very polluted environment. Say you live in the depths of a dump somewhere, and you've got lots of toxins in the environment. All of those things are stressors, and these stressors do have their effect. So there are multiple ways by which these things happen, but when they do, the domino effect begins. What we are a series of domino reactions, and you've got to know where the top dominoes are and correct them, because they will correct everything else.
Very good. Okay, so with that in mind, with someone who is zinc deficient or someone who was magnesium deficient, at what point do you know that your body is saturated with this particular vitamin that was missing?
Well, first of all, this is not guesswork and it's not nutrition. This is exacting science.
Perfect.
We already know from 30 years ago, that's when the great research was done that revealed all of this with the great Carl Pfeiffer. We know exact dosages required for adults, for children, for teenagers, for people of a certain weight, for people with other issues going on. Remember I said that every nutrient is part of a domino system. Mm-hmm. So dominoes affect each other. And this is why you can't try this at home. You change this domino, there are 10 others that are going to change. We have to make sure that in you as an individual, as a unique person, that's exactly what's going to be good and appropriate for you. And that's why we take the entire person into consideration, including what other nutrients you're taking, what medications you're taking, your primary disorder, and any other challenges present. So all this gets put into perspective when we're now talking about, do you need this one or do you need that one? Which is why when we take a great history and we say, okay, you've got gastro what? And you're taking what? I know that test said you were deficient, but we think it's a little bit in excess because we know what the other dominoes are.
Yes. Okay.
That's how we approach every patient.
We have lots of questions on Facebook Live. We will address them off the air, but there's a question that was there earlier that was asking about schizophrenia. So we're going here for going like anxiety and panic. Well, before we go to schizophrenia, anxiety and panic attacks, do they go hand in hand? Are they like very similar to one another? Because it's the story in our head.
Yes. Well, we have to clarify the symptom of anxiety versus what traditional medicine would call an anxiety disorder versus what we call panic disorder. Now, many lay people get these confused. Anxiety syndromes or anxiety disorder typically has a cause, an identifiable cause. When I'm around that situation, I get anxious. Many people say I'm socially anxious, but they're fine when they're in a room by themselves. By the way, that's oftentimes chiral disorder manifesting its ugly head or undermethylation. Now, when you have a panic disorder, you don't have an identifiable cause. You're sitting there on the beach, relaxing, on vacation, no thought in your head, and all of a sudden you become short of breath. You feel like your heart is pounding, like you're going to die. Your whole system is going to explode. And this is a cardinal symptom, cardinal signs of what we call panic disorder. Now, again, we find that panic disorder is also related to a biochemical imbalance that is identifiable. So these syndromes, while they seem related because anxiety can be part of each, these are very different disorders because one has identifiable causes that if you just stay away from them, you're not going to have these issues. That's usually anxiety syndromes or anxiety disorder. Panic disorder, no identifiable cause, but you feel like the world is going to just explode. So each of these is treatable. Each of these has a cause, sometimes multiple causes, and they're identifiable.
Okay, great. Okay, 25th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, including if you're on Facebook Live, send me a private message. The 25th caller, texter, or messenger will get a free metabolic panel by DHA Lab and a free consultation with Dr. Albert Mensa. So start calling, start messaging, do whatever it takes. Let's get healthy. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. So we've got lots of questions. Okay. So Layla, thank you so much for coming on. And of course, Yvonne also asked about panic attacks. You just spoke about that. So thank you, Yvonne, for your question. Layla wants to know, so how do we determine anxiety, depression? I think you went ahead and discussed that very well. And can you spend time and become hopeless or distrust the medical community? Yes, I understand, Layla. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, so with that in mind, if you have depression, anxiety, or panic attacks, is that the same deficiency across the board? So what is it that you need to take, or what could you be deficient in?
There are multiple sources and there are multiple causes. What we find is that each of these, anxiety is a very general kind of phenomenon, and there are at least 7 to 10 different biochemical imbalances that produce the symptom of anxiety. Panic, on the other hand, is different. There are probably 3 major biochemical imbalances that can produce panic disorders. Okay, and I'll actually kind of bring that more so down to 2. Panic disorder in and of itself is oftentimes associated with undermethylation. The other side is that it can be associated with copper toxicity. So when you talk about real panic issues, there's an exact science as to why this occurs. So for example, let's take copper for a moment. Copper pushes dopamine. It turns your lovely, relaxing dopamine into norepinephrine, which then leads to adrenaline. Adrenaline doesn't just affect your brain, it affects your heart. The beta-1 receptor of the heart is a receptor specifically for epinephrine. So now when you got copper that turns dopamine into adrenaline, your heart will pound. And that's why we don't like people taking copper supplements, despite what's out there in multivitamins. Because the heart will pound, you will become anxious, you will experience all these symptoms. You'll experience, in the best case scenario, you'll experience a low-grade unsettledness. Okay, so there's nothing good about copper toxicity, but it can also lead to panic definitively. The other piece involves undermethylation, and that's more of an insidious longer-term process. But people who experience panic oftentimes are undermethylated individuals. So we don't just say this out of nowhere. We know the exact science how these things occur. And so we now know the treatment as well.
But when somebody
correct those issues.
I'm sorry, when somebody has copper overload, how do you uncopper yourself?
Well, we uncopper you, so to speak.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
We have to be very careful. If copper comes out of your system too quickly, many people experience what we call a dumping syndrome, so to speak, and they will experience worsening symptoms before they get better. Copper has to be removed kind of like sipping fine wine, and I'm not a drinker, but sipping fine wine, smooth and slow, okay? And we can do that. We have to have very, very specific dosages of the right treatment elements, and the copper will come down. The beauty is that it's not just how you feel. Thanks to direct health access.
We're on the radio now. Okay, so sorry. Thank you so much for your questions. Is there an
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Okay, you heard the number, 407-373-5959. 25th caller, texter, and message on Messenger at facebook.com/Lillian's radio show. If you have never gone on Facebook Live, and I'm telling you, this is a show to be listening to, the off-the-air conversation. Very, very powerful. I want to thank Dan Hanson of DHA Lab, who is giving away a metabolic panel, a full metabolic. What does it test, Dan? That metabolic panel?
When you're looking at our metabolic panel, it's specific to these core elements that Dr. Mensa is discussing, which are critical to biochemistry and brain chemistry. We're looking at the methylation marker, we're looking at markers for copper, we're looking at markers for zinc, and we're also looking at the pyrrole marker. So a lot of the key terms that you're hearing today are all included in that panel.
Yes. So 407-373-5959. If you want to learn, many of us would like to take the pill so that we don't have to learn about ourselves, but there's a deeper root cause sometimes. Other things, maybe the physiological, the chemistry that's happening, maybe contributing to or exacerbating something that's happened in the past. So the sooner you learn about how your body works and why it's screeching at you through panic attacks or maybe anxiety or depression or with schizophrenia, we haven't even started talking about schizophrenia, autism, all these different things. Listen to the body. The body is constantly speaking to us. So let's talk about, you talked about earlier, Dr. Mensa, about a child, a tantrum, a teenager, their head spinning or whatever it is where we are reacting to a particular situation that might promote anxiety but at what age can you test to see if this is a pyrrole disorder that might go unnoticed for the rest of their life and now they're shaming themselves? How young can you be to do this testing?
We like to typically say that around age 2 to 2.5, that's really the earliest that we tend to do the testing. But I'll be quite honest with you, we've had 18-month-olds get tested for pyrrole disorder. Okay, if we can get that urine sample, it's a viable construct.
And with pyrrole disorder, what are the basic what is missing from the body? What causes? You had mentioned many things before, but let's just repeat a little bit again with the pyrrole disorder.
I like to talk about just a few of them because we don't want to tell everything. People start doing things on their own, and it's not a great thing to do. Mm-hmm. But one of the key elements we'd like to talk about is zinc. And zinc is one of my favorite new nutrients simply because it's so powerful. It works on everything from hair loss to DNA repair to growth. So aging is part of this, to mental stability. Not just anxiety, not just depression, but sometimes rapidly cycling mood swings, stress tolerance, stress capacities, fatigue issues. Zinc is just a huge multitasking agent.
It's almost like vitamin C. Almost like vitamin C. Yes.
Absolutely. Even taste on your tongue is dependent on zinc.
Wow.
So if you are zinc deficient and you're wondering why all these things are happening to me, I'm anxious, I'm this, my body's falling apart, the question could be answered by a single test, a very simple test. Contact Direct Healthcare and explore, Direct Health Access, old term, and explore some of these chemical imbalances because these are all multitasking agents that are missing.
Okay, very good. So, and it's simple. Let's talk about schizophrenia. Let's talk about that. And also I want you to add the TMS that's out there. My father went through that a while ago for depression. And after he was done, he was still depressed. So let's talk about other things that are out there that are selling us that we will stop being depressed. How does that work?
Okay. Well, you've asked some very interesting and complicated questions. Schizophrenia is not one disorder. It is one name. It's an umbrella term for a group of different disorders. There are different biotypes for schizophrenia. So there's a pyrrole disorder schizophrenia. There's an under-methylation schizophrenia. There's an over-methylation schizophrenia. And this is why the medications that people are given don't work for everybody. This is also why medications that were developed 20, 30 years ago aren't working quite so well for anyone now. I'm going to break out something for you that we have yet to talk about and we have not publicly announced. We can do it on your show. We were talking with Dr. Walsh the other day of the Walsh Research Institute, and we were noting how the vast majority of people who come in with a diagnosis of schizophrenia now are under-methylators, as opposed to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when the wonderful Dr. Abram Hoffer was working, and there were more over-methylated patients, and the protocol was with folic acid and niacinamide. That doesn't work for the majority of people anymore who are just trying it on their own because most people are not over-methylated with these disorders anymore. One of the things we believe has been going on is that the use of folic acid for extended periods of time in our prenatal vitamins have actually lowered the methyl concentration, and now people are susceptible. So we're telling you just now, for the first time, we always talk about folic acid stealing methyl molecules. That's why multivitamins are a big problem for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the key now is that it's now creating a stressor, we believe, that can predispose individuals to schizophrenia later. The vast majority of people that we see with schizophrenia are the undermethylated types now, and the pyrrole disorder types, not as many of the overmethylated. There's still overmethylated schizophrenics, but not in the numbers we used to see. So the key point here, though, is that there are different biotypes of schizophrenia. There's even schizophrenia that can be caused by inflammatory bowel disorders and food sensitivities. Now, that's generally about 7% of the population, so it's not the majority. It's not one of the major biotypes, but oftentimes it is a key component. So yes, even diet can cause some of these challenges. Let's move to the question about TMS.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, this is a very, very big field of exploration on our part. It is part of the latest and most cutting research pieces that we've got out there now. But the key problem, and this is where I say things are in their infancy, the key problem is that if you're going to beam magnetism or magnetic waves into somebody's head, you better be able to identify the magnetic frequencies of every cell you're dealing with, and you have to know what the repercussions are. To me, this is science fiction guesswork, okay? There's a 40% improvement rate, and it costs a whole lot of money, and which means that 60% of people don't get better. Why? Because once again, of bio-individuality.
That's right.
Okay, we're starting a process that we don't as yet have a full and comprehensive understanding as to how things work. And then we're trying to treat things with a one-size-fits-all regimen. That simply can't be done. Every individual is also magnetically unique and electrically unique.
Yes.
So we can't expect a one-size-fits-all magnetic resonance or magnetic transmission frequency beam to cure or fix the vast majority of people.
Yeah, just yesterday, Dr. Mensa, we and Dan, we just talked about electromagnetic frequency and how these frequencies actually alter our frequency. And so I'm wondering what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Are we having these deficiencies because of our food? Or, you know, like you talk about folic acid, and folic acid is synthetic vitamin B. So are you suggesting that we go with the folate, the actual greens, the actual vitamins that are folate as opposed to folic acid, or no?
No, that is a big misconception that is out there rampant on the internet and out there in the world. It matters not whether it is synthetic or whether it is natural. The key is that your system does not necessarily resonate with excess amounts of that particular nutrient. Okay, so if you're undermethylated, for example, and you've got a serotonin receptor issue, and oftentimes most people do, you've got these depressions and these anxiety syndromes, this is not the thing for you to take. It doesn't matter what form it's in. In fact, we tell people, if we recognize you're undermethylated, your diet, sit down for this, people, your diet is not to be rich in vegetables. Dark green leafy vegetables
I heard
a problem
about
for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so because we're almost at the end, I want to acknowledge all of you. I want to invite you to our private conversation on Facebook Live all over the world. We have listeners from all over the world at Lillian's radio show, because we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to keep doing this conversation every month for as long as DHA Lab and Dr. Mensa would like to come on the show, because it's so important. And so DHA Lab, Dan Hanson, VP of DHA Labs, thank you so much for your free metabolic panel and consultation. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, Lillian, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Go to metabolic, and I'll give you all the links and everything. And Dr. Mensa, thank you so much for being on the show, on the radio show. But I'm so grateful that you're going to continue this conversation off the air.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lillian.
And for those of you that are listening, join us, please. 25th caller or texter, please make it work. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com and at Lillian's radio show on Facebook Live. So join us there. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Okay. Oh, that was not a good ever. Let's do that again. Make it the best day ever. Okay, so now let's continue our conversation. Lots of questions here, Dr. Mensa. And so we already addressed the TMS question. Do we need to detox when we begin these nutritional therapies? That's a great question, Yvonne. Thank you so much.
The answer is no.
Yeah. Share a little bit more than just no. People want to know why. Okay.
Well, there's a whole lot of discussion about detox, and
Yes.
detox what? Everything in your system is unique. Metals are unique. Metals are lumped into one category. There are good metals and there are bad metals. There are problematic metals and there are metals that do nothing in your system. There are metals that only live for about 30 days and then they're dead. So what does detox mean? Okay, if you're looking at supporting oxidative stress or helping to deal with oxidation in the system, that's always a good thing in general, because inflammation is the key by which most disease works throughout the entire human system. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you have to detox first before seeking help and actually getting benefit. There are individuals who've got, for example, if you just have a pyro disorder, treating the pyro disorder and doing nothing else differently, you are clear, you are done, you are now happy. So you don't have to go through a lot of hoop jumping in order to get improvement in your body and in your system and in your mind. That's the best part about this process, because we have targeted issues.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt here. So I asked the question earlier before I realized, show's about to end. So if somebody is eating poorly and they have a pyral disorder, you fix the pyral disorder, they can continue to eat poorly? What happens to the rest of the body?
No, I'm not saying that. We're talking specifically.
Okay, well, that's why I had to interrupt.
No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we deal with cause and effect. Okay, it reminds me of the science fiction, the Matrix 2 movie, and the character called the Merovingian.
Yeah.
He says we deal in cause and effect.
Okay.
You ask a specific question about the effect, we tell you about the cause, and we target the cause to lead to correction.
Okay.
Now, that is a piece of what is the entire human construct. We're not talking about the rest of the system and what you're doing. You can have a lovely clearance of pyro disorder, eat like crap, and then see your body disintegrate. But your mind is happy while your body disintegrates. Okay, so we're not talking about the global phenomenon. We're referencing very specific challenges and specific disorders. Okay, in a best case scenario, yes, you want to eat cleanly, go organic, decrease the grains, all the lovely things you've heard other people say. Okay. But when it comes to these chemistries, we're very specific in our commentary.
I love it. My body's falling apart, but I'm happy.
There you go.
Okay. So Hannah, Hannah wants to know can you combine the treatment with conventional medicine until you get better and need to get out of antidepressants? I think the question she's asking is, how do you titrate down from antidepressants and start doing the vitamins and supplements and for your body?
Lillian, forgive me, I like the first answer, but the first part better. Okay. Not only if you are on medication, we actually insist you stay on that medication while you start nutrient therapy. Okay. The medication has created sort of a bridge support for you. And until you build up a new bridge support, you don't tear down the old one. So
if you're taking antidepressants and you're still depressed and it's not working for you, then what?
Now, that's a great question. Now, many people, first of all, will say, talk to your doctor, your psychiatrist about this first. Because even if you're coming down, you will start to experience some strange things, because each of these pharmaceutical medications has receptors or receptor sensitivity all over the body, okay? Not just cognitively. So you have to be very, very careful.
Like pain medication.
Exactly. It's global. So you have to be very cautious about how you titrate and when you titrate. We recommend not changing anything, however, until you've had at least a good 6 to 9 months with nutrient therapy and seeing improvement and seeing the numbers change. So that's how we keep ourselves honest. There are values for each of the chemical imbalances that either need to go up or go down, and they are testable. We keep a log sheet, we keep a graph of the progress itself. And when you reach the right point and it's consistent and you're feeling better, then we start talking to your physician about titrating and getting off of the meds if that's your wish.
Okay. So thank you, Patty. Thank you, Sick. We are going to continue the conversation. He wishes the conversation would go longer. Your wish is my command. And so we're going to go a little bit longer on this. And thank you so much. So I have no idea who's been calling and how many what is going on with the messages or anything to that effect. But if you really want this, you need to go for it all the way. Okay, so we've talked about over-methylators, under-methylators. When I had my results, you said that you thought that there was there might be pyrrole disorder with me, but because of my zinc deficiency,
Yes.
it didn't show up. So with that in mind, does that mean that how long do I take the zinc at 70 milligrams? And how long do I wait before I retest?
Okay. Now, in your particular case, we would suggest retesting in about 6 months.
Okay.
No particular urgency or challenge. Now, other people, so for example, if we're looking to treat a patient with Alzheimer's disease and they've got a low zinc level, we would be checking them every month in order to see exactly when that zinc level is right to begin the next stage of treatment. Somebody who's got cancer, for example, and we're supporting cancer, we don't treat cancer. But with these nutrient protocols, sometimes you also need to have an exacting zinc level. And because time is key, you can't wait for 3 months or 6 months. It's every month. For the average person, it's usually about 6 months. For those who are really gung-ho gunners, it's about 3 months. You contact DHA, get that laboratory testing ordered, and move on from there.
Okay, and for that, I just want to say, for those of you who want to contact DHA, and perhaps you might not win today because there's only going to be one winner combined. And hey, if you're watching on YouTube later on and I haven't reached the 25th caller or texter or message, try as well as too. You can go to DHALab.com. So it's DHALab.com. And the phone number is 847-222-9546. But if you were a subscriber on the Lillian McDermott radio show, you'd have all that information. And then, of course, with Dr. Mensa, Mensa Medical, you can go to mensamedical.com. And I'm going to make sure that I'm saying that right, mensamedical.com, yes. And you can send me a message, send him a message, let him know that you heard about this on the Lillian McDermott radio show, because that's how you support our sponsors. You let them know that their work is valuable, and sharing this message worldwide is valuable. And so, Dan, I want to switch to you real quick and say,
Sure.
For people that are listening from all over the world, we already talked about Malaysia, but we have listeners in England. We have listeners in Montenegro. We have listeners all over. So if there are, how can they find out if there's a laboratory near them?
So you want to hop on our website. We have an international tab that's dedicated to servicing our international clients and our international physicians. It's about learning where you are. We can connect you with our network. And if we currently don't have a network in that location, we work in each and every request to bridge that gap and find a location. The testing supplies, the materials that we offer, standard phlebotomy services are generally able to suit all of the needs. And so we do a great job of expanding to new locations and servicing patients around the world.
Very good. And so thank you for that. And I want to add a little bit about Dr. Mensa. I was reading his bio, and on there it says Dr. Mensa believes. So I just want to give you like a little insight of what Dr. Mensa believes. And he says, we are not given knowledge to rule over the world for the sake of power, but we have power for the sake of serving. Taking the time to educate our patients, their families, and their healthcare community at large is consistent with our directive to leave the universe a better place than when it came. I love that, Dr. Mensa. And from the moment you said hello to me on our private consultation, because I had my little private time with Dr. Mensa, I was mesmerized that this message, this information is not been shared in like all the major stations, and everybody learn about this, that I had to learn from it when I went to an ACIM conference, and I happened to stumble upon Dr. Bill Walsh, who is just a sweet, sweet man. And the information was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. And then I met Dan, and from there I've met Dr. Mensa. everything works out beautifully. And so what would you like to say to people right now that have been, because I didn't even think of Alzheimer's. Are you seeing changes in Alzheimer's too?
Yes. We have the capacity to actually stop the progression of Alzheimer's disease in individuals who have mild to moderate levels of Alzheimer's progression. Moderate to severe, we have no facility with that, but we can actually prevent the progression in over 85% of the patients who come, or the patients that we talk to. So, the problem is that in medicine, we practice at the level of which we were taught. So for some, that's 20 years ago. That's 30 years ago. What is the same as 20, 30 years ago? Science is not. It is ever evolving. So I want people to remember one word. That is hope. Number 2, simply don't give up. Number 3, please remember, what was yesteryear is not tomorrow. What there may not be an answer for today, give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it a month. There's something that's going to be out there. I tell people quite often, remember, once upon a time, the world was flat. Once upon a time, man could not go to the moon, right? Once upon a time, man could not fly. Once upon a time, who are you going to talk to with a telephone? What is that? Okay. The world doesn't stay stagnant, and neither does science and technology. I'm a molecular medicine specialist. I can tell you, I went to the hospital a few years ago when my dad was ill. I saw somebody on a machine I did not recognize, and I asked, what is that? I've been through surgery rotations. I've done minor surgery, and they told me that was an external heart. Mm-hmm. And I said, it is a what? That's not my field, not my specialty, but there are advances all the time that many of us are not aware of. So don't give up hope. This is a new day.
Yes, and for some people, this is going to resonate so well. But, the example I give is the earth used to be flat, and the people believed that until someone said, hey, the earth might be round or a sphere. Right. And they ridiculed the sphere thinker. And many, many, many years later, they said, well, maybe there's some truth to that. But here's the thing. There's still a group called the Flat Earth Society, and they're just as passionate about their belief. And at what point do we give up this belief and say, I'm just open to learn and grow? I just want to learn this new truth. There are people that don't believe that the earth is a sphere. There are people who believe that we didn't go to the moon. There are people who believe so many opposite of what the technology has led us. And so I want us all to be curious and consider what you're hearing today. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, I am not trying to convince, and I don't think Dr. Mensah or Dan or trying to convince anyone that this is a new truth. We're just saying, if it resonates with you, be curious, research it, see the research. How can people find the research, Dr. Mensah, that you're sharing that, by the way, I want to add that 70% of people who are diagnosed with dementia don't have dementia. They might have some form. Now I know what it is. It could be some form of chemical disorder, and that chemical being zinc or copper or vitamin Bs or folic or whatever it is. So how can people discover the research so that they can do their searching for their truth?
I think a great starting point is to go to the Walsh Research Institute's website, www.walshresearchinstitute.org. That is where a lot of Dr. Walsh's work is put out there in detailed fashion. You can go to mensamedical.com for a good general descriptive of what it is these chemistries actually do in practice. When you look at the actual research, I think the best place is walshresearchinstitute.org. Okay. He is the next person, the next generator, so to speak, after Carl Pfeiffer, to really explode all of this out there. And there's a lot of discussion, a lot of myth, a lot of misunderstanding on a lot of websites and a lot of different people. This is where it began. Okay, so go to the source. I would go to that one. In time, our newly developed Mensa Research Institute, the website will be up, and we'll have additional research that is now put out there online for people. We have it. It's just not in a readable form just yet.
Okay, so I'm gonna say a couple of autism. Children with autism, people with autism, can they benefit from this testing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What else? Who else? Just give some diagnosis Can you share some and go down that so that people can go, whoop? Okay.
One of the ways I would put this very generally is that if it's a physical disorder, that's not what we're talking about. So if you've got arthritis, although sometimes it can improve, this is not an arthritis treatment. This is not a hepatitis treatment. This is not a physical corporal body. But if it is of the mind, from anxiety, depression to schizophrenia, we now have capacities to deal with dyslexias, visual tracking, auditory processing disorders, ADHD, OCD. We talked about anxiety, depression, rage, intermittent explosive disorder, which many psychiatrists are labeling as actually pyro disorder. They just don't know it. Okay.
Well, we just need to get a pill for that. That's why they name it something new.
Indeed.
Okay.
But here's one that's very important for the women out there who are told it's your hormones. I want to tell you that your fibroids, your endometriosis, your breast cancer, your chronic fatigue syndrome, your fibromyalgia, your anxiety, and your depression, all in the same person is related, and it's most likely related to copper. Very simple to test, very simple to treat. Resolution occurs pretty well, okay? Fibromyalgia may have a few different causes, but one of those things is there. And we say we don't do migraine headaches, but guess what? In the vast majority of females who are estrogen dominant, the migraine headache is related to copper. Done deal, okay? So there are many physiological challenges, the irregular menstrual cycles, the whole cystic phenomenon with ovarian cysts in females. This is important. The reason I bring this up is because females have for so long been just treated poorly by the medical establishment, saying it's in your mind, it's hormones. It is not. There are often physiologic processes that can now be identified and treated. Hysterectomies don't necessarily have to happen. We now understand why the fibroids are there. We understand why the bleeding is there. And for some reason, that's so important because for some females, it's important because they never had children, because they had a hysterectomy. And my heart just, it just goes for them because we can prevent this in future generations. Just by having knowledge. A little bit of knowledge saves our children, because our children die for lack of knowledge.
Yes, our people die of lack of knowledge, and that is so true. And the information is here, it's available. Real quick, if somebody, how does this start? And Patty asked the question, thank you, Patty. Can people order this test without doctor's orders? So can they call DHA Lab, and how does it work, Dan?
So, well, no testing, no clinical chemistries of any nature can be ordered without a physician's order. However, our consultation program is supported by Dr. Albert Mensa, and it allows you this wellness approach to these key chemistries, which provides you the opportunity to purchase as a general customer. So you can get online and you can order the laboratory testing and the consultation, but note that you will have a physician who orders your laboratory testing.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Anything else that you would like to add? Because I don't want to because we're going to have this conversation again, because somebody's going to win. So just to give you, okay, before we go, there are certain things I need to do. And so I do need to talk about my sponsors, and please support my sponsors. We're talking about Liberty Health Share. Go to my sponsorship page and learn about taking your health back with Liberty Health Share instead of insurance that tells you that you have to do a certain thing a certain way. Liberty Health Share is, I'm a member of Liberty Health Share, and I'm so proud that they are the largest sponsor that I have right now. And so go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click on Liberty Health Share, figure out how you can support them the way they're supporting the show. Also, Keep Me Safe Organics. We're talking about chemical overloads and all these things that we just slather all over our body. Keep Me Safe Organics is non-synthetic. It's all organic, and it's the only cleansing product on my body and my makeup and all of that. And so if you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, again, enter Lilly code 10. That's LILLY 10, and you get 10% off your entire purchase. I'm so excited about that. First Alternative Care is a affiliate sponsor, and I love First Alternative Care. You get 24/7 medical and dermatology, and 3 hours a year of mental health counseling, and all of that for your entire household for $35. But I'm trying to create a group. If anybody's interested in joining a group, that we can bring those prices down I'm working with a group right now that I'm bringing it down to 15, and we're talking about a group of people. So a household might be a college students, 3 or 4 college students, and that's $35 a month. And if your children or grandchildren are living with you, it doesn't matter. It's $35 per household. And so they also write prescriptions too. So they might even, I don't know, maybe we can talk to DHA Lab. Maybe they can write a prescription for this order as well. And then, of course, last but not least, if you live in the Melbourne, Brevard County area, the pharmacy in Merritt Island is also a sponsor of the Lillian McDermott radio show. They believe in this information so much so that they have compounds that go right on your skin instead of taking it orally. So, and they also take care of your pets too. So I just need to talk about my sponsors because we need to figure out ways to support our sponsors the way they are supporting the show. Dan and Dr. Mensa, thank you so much for this information. If anybody has a question, now is the time to ask because we're wrapping up. And so is there anything that you would like to add that we did not talk about, Dr. Mensa, that you would like to share?
All I can say is that the field of science and medicine is pregnant, and check periodically as to see what the new babies are that are out, but also be cautious about them.
Yes.
Because many people will say a lot of things that aren't yet quite proven or established. And so we have to be very, very cautious. But not only is the truth out there, there's always something new on the horizon. Keep hope alive, as they say. It's there.
Keep hope alive. Thank you so much, Dr. Mensa. And Dan Hanson, VP of DHA Labs. Thank you so much for your generosity and offering this beautiful gift and hope for people today. So is there anything that you would like to add to today's broadcast?
Just that we always appreciate the message you're sharing, Lillian, and we appreciate the opportunity to be present with you and really get to touch the lives of individuals that need a friend. So thank you so much for allowing us this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for being a part of it. And for those of you who are watching today, I would love for you to be a part of growing the show, being part of the birth of a new show, because eventually what I'd like to do is just do Facebook Live and YouTube, because you saw all the interruptions that have to happen when you're on the air and off the air. So that's my goal, that eventually we will have enough of a network, of a tribe of people that are thirsty for this new truth, that radio will not be needed, because our radio will be here. It will be in this safe place that we call the Lillian McDermott radio show, which I'm going to change it to the Lillian McDermott classroom, because we're all learning together. So I want to thank you. Please share this, forward this to anyone who could benefit for this, and let's continue to grow together. So with that in mind, I'm going to say goodbye to all of you on Facebook, and then on YouTube, and then I'm going to get these guys to myself for a little bit. So thank you so much. Can you wave goodbye to everybody? Bye.
Thank you, Lillian. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I will also stop the